The rain hammered down like a verdict from the gods, turning the Seattle streets into rivers of regret, and Alex Harlan stood there, drenched, defiant, a king stripped of his crown, staring at the revolving doors of his own empire as if they were the gates of hell. "Wait outside like the rest of the help," the board's interim chair had sneered through the intercom, his voice crackling with the static of old money and older prejudices, the kind that whispered "faggot" in boardrooms disguised as coughs. In that suspended second, as lightning cracked the sky like a broken promise, Alex's fingers tightened around his phone, the screen glowing with a single unread text from the man who'd once promised him the world. "I'm sorry. I had no choice." Alex Harlan had built Harlan Tech from a dingy garage in Capitol Hill, where the coffee was blacker than the nights he pulled coding marathons, fueled by nothing but Red Bull and the fire of a kid who'd grown up hiding his first crush under the bleachers of a rainy high school football field. At 34, he was the wunderkind of Silicon Shoals, the stretch of Puget Sound startups that churned out apps faster than they burned through venture capital. His flagship product, Echolink, wasn't just software. It was a lifeline for isolated queer kids in red state towns, connecting them to mentors, hotlines, and each other through encrypted chats that felt like whispers in the dark. Alex had poured his soul into it, every line of code a brick in the wall he'd built against the world that had once called him unnatural. But success in America came with strings, invisible ones woven from boardroom handshakes and donor checks. The bored, stiff-necked relics from the pre.com era had been circling for months, their unease growing like mold in the damp Seattle air. It started with whispers, too flashy with that Pride Float sponsorship, too personal with the queer youth initiatives. Then came the audits, the concerns about fiscal conservatism. All code for tone it down, Harlan, or we'll tone you out. Alex had laughed it off at first, toasting with his team over craft IPAs at the Pike Place dives. But the chill had settled deeper, especially after he'd gone public with Jordan last year. Jordan Reyes, the soft-spoken graphic designer with eyes like smoked quartz and a laugh that could melt the Space Needle's frost. Their engagement photo had gone viral, two men in tailored wool coats, hands intertwined under a cherry blossom canopy in the University District, and suddenly, Alex's inbox flooded with support from allies and venom from the shadows. That morning, as the storm clouds gathered over Elliott Bay, Alex had woken to Jordan's side of the bed cold, a note on the nightstand. "Meeting ran late. Love you. Don't wait up." It was the third time that week, and Alex had stared at the ceiling of their queen and loft, the exposed brick walls closing in like judgmental ants at a family reunion. He texted Jordan a heart emoji, then dressed in his armor. Charcoal suit from that tailor in Belltown who knew how to cut for broad shoulders earned from weekend hikes up Rattlesnake Ledge. By 9, he was striding into Harlan Tech's headquarters, a glass monolith on the waterfront that reflected the ferries slicing through the sound like silver arrows. The boardroom on the 42nd floor smelled of stale coffee and entitlement, the long oak table scarred from deals that had built fortunes and broken backs. Edward "Ed" Carmichael, the interim chair, a silver fox with a Rolex that screamed old Harvard and a homophobia that purred like a well-oiled engine, sat at the head, flanked by the vultures. Sylvia Grant, the venture capitalist who'd clawed her way up by undercutting women like her. Marcus Hale, the CFO with a gambling habit and eyes that darted like cornered rats, and Lila Voss, the HR director who'd once emailed Alex a diversity training invite with a winky emoji, as if his queerness was a punchline. Jordan was there too, at the far end, his sketchpad open but untouched, his gaze fixed on the floor-to-ceiling windows where the rain began its assault. "Alex, have a seat," Ed drawled, his southern lilt slithering through the room like kudzu. No handshake, no smile, just that patronizing tilt of the head, the one reserved for errant nephews at Thanksgiving. Alex slid into his chair, the leather creaking like a warning. The agenda was a farce: projections for Echolink's next rollout, partnerships with East Coast funders. But midway through Sylvia's drone about streamlining operations, Ed cleared his throat, and the air thickened. "We're invoking the Founder's Clause, Alex," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Temporary suspension of duties. Effective immediately." The words landed like a sucker punch, but Alex didn't flinch. He'd rehearsed this in his head, The corporate coup dressed up as concern. On what grounds? His voice was steady, honed from TED Talks and pitch decks, but inside, his heart jackhammered against his ribs. Market volatility, Marcus chimed in, avoiding eye contact. Investor jitters. Your personal life has become a distraction. There it was, the knife unsheathed. Alex's eyes flicked to Jordan, who still wouldn't look up. His fingers white-knuckled on the table's edge. Personal life. Code for the ring on his finger, the pride flags in the lobby, the way Alex had dared to love out loud in a city that preached progress but practiced prejudice. And who's stepping in? Alex pressed, though he knew. Ed's smirk confirmed it. Me, temporarily, until we stabilize. Laughter bubbled up, bitter as black licorice. Stabilize? You mean sanitize. He stood, chair scraping back like thunder. Echolink isn't some widget factory, Ed. It's lives. Kids like I was, reaching out at 2 a.m. because their dads found the browser history. Sylvia's lips pursed. This is business, Alex. Not therapy. Business, he echoed, the word tasting like ash. The kind that built this company on my code, my vision, my goddamn blood. Ed's eyes narrowed, the mask slipping. Watch your tone, boy. We've accommodated a lot, your little causes, your lifestyle. But results matter. The room went still, the rain pattering against the glass like accusatory fingers. Jordan finally lifted his head, his face ashen, and in that moment, Alex saw it. The fracture lines, the guilt etched in the furrow of his brow. What have you done? But he didn't ask. Instead, he gathered the folder, squared his shoulders, and walked to the door. Accommodated, he repeated softly, hand on the knob, like a pet in a cage. Ed's voice followed him, oily and final. And Harlan? Wait outside. The lobby's for staff. You're on leave. The door clicked shut behind him, and the elevator descended like a coffin, depositing him into the marble expanse of the lobby. Staff milled about, casting sidelong glances, whispers already slithering through the vents. Did you hear? Alex got the boot. He pushed through the revolving doors, and the rain hit him full force, a baptism in betrayal. Soaked to the bone, he stood there, briefcase dangling from numb fingers, the city blurring into a watercolor of hurt. 1 minute, that's all it took. His phone buzzed, not Jordan, but his assistant, Mia, the fierce Latina who'd been with him since the garage days. Board's raiding your office. What do you need? Alex's thumb hovered, then typed. Everything. Names, emails, the works. He fired off the first email before the thunder rolled again. To legal, CCing the entire board, invoking his veto rights under the bylaws they'd conveniently forgotten. Attachments flew, financials scrubbed clean of Marcus's shell games, donor lists tainted by Sylvia's kickbacks, Ed's emails laced with slurs that would make Fox News blush. Harlan Tech wasn't just his company. It was fortified, every server a sentinel, every clause a sword. By the time security, loyal holdouts from his early hires, escorted the board out, Alex was back inside, towel-dried but unbowed, standing at the podium in the auditorium where he'd once unveiled Echolink to teary-eyed applause. The staff assembled below, a sea of confused faces, Jordan among them, pale as a ghost in the back row. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex began, voice amplified like Judgment Day. It seems there's been a misunderstanding. As of 10:17 a.m., Edward Carmichael, Sylvia Grant, Marcus Hale, and Lila Voss are no longer with Harlan Tech effective immediately. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ed, red-faced in the wings, lunged forward, but security, big guys from Tacoma with no love for the suits, held him back. You can't. I can? Alex cut him off, projecting the emails on the massive screen behind him. Slurs in bold, figures in red. And I have, for embezzlement, harassment, and a hostile environment that ends today. The room erupted. Cheers from the devs, sobs from the interns who'd felt the chill. Jordan pushed through, eyes pleading. Alex, wait. But Alex's gaze was steel. You waited until it suited you, Jordan. Now it's my turn. He turned away, the rain outside easing to a drizzle, as if the storm had wept itself out. Harlan Tech would rise, scarred but stronger, a beacon for the misfits who'd built it. And Alex? He'd walk into the sun, alone for now but whole, loving himself first, the American way, one defiant step at a time. The auditorium's cheers faded into a buzz as Alex stepped off the podium, the weight of eyes like spotlights on his skin. Mia was there in seconds, her dark curls frizzing from the humidity, wrapping him in a spare Harlan Tech hoodie that smelled faintly of her lavender shampoo. "Boss, that was movie of the week shit," she whispered, fierce pride in her eyes. "You good?" He managed a nod, the adrenaline crash hitting like a wave against Alki Beach. "Get me coffee, black, and the jet keys, I'm going to the cabin." She didn't argue, just squeezed his arm and vanished into the throng. Jordan hovered at the edge, his designer jeans rumpled, that sketchpad clutched like a shield. Alex could see the questions piling up in his silence. "How much do you know? Will you forgive?" But forgiveness was a luxury Alex couldn't afford. Not yet. Not when the knife's twist still echoed in his gut. He slipped into the service elevator, the descent to the parking garage a merciful veil. His Tesla hummed to life under the fluorescent hum, wipers slashing at the lingering mist as he gunned it onto the I-5, the skyline receding in the rearview like a bad dream. Seattle's veins pulsed with rush-hour fury, horns blaring, taillights bleeding red. But Alex drove north, toward the Olympics, where the evergreens swallowed secrets whole. The cabin was his sanctuary, a A-frame tucked into the Hoh rainforest skirts, bought on a whim after Echolink's first million. No Wi-Fi, no signal, just the Quinault River's murmur and walls lined with dog-eared paperbacks. Steinbeck for the grit, Baldwin for the soul. He arrived as dusk bruised the sky, the rain a gentle patter now, drumming on the tin roof like hesitant applause. Inside, he shed the suit like snakeskin, pulling on flannel and jeans worn soft from too many fireside confessions. Sleep came in fits, haunted by boardroom ghosts and Jordan's face, those eyes that had once mapped his scars like constellations. They'd met 2 years back at a queer artists mixer in Fremont, Jordan sketching caricatures while Alex nursed a gin and tonic, dodging small talk. "You're the guy who coded the app that saved my little brother," Jordan had said, sliding over a napkin doodle of Alex as a caped crusader, rainbow lasso in hand. Laughter had bridged the gap, then kisses under the troll sculpture's shadow, tentative at first, then fierce, like they'd both been starving. Jordan moved in 6 months later, his canvases clashing gloriously with Alex's minimalist tech. They built a rhythm. Mornings with espresso and crosswords, evenings hiking Discovery Park, hands brushing in that electric way that said mine without words. The proposal happened on New Year's, fireworks blooming over the sound as Alex dropped to one knee on their balcony, ring glinting like a promise. "You're my echo," he'd whispered, and Jordan's yes had tasted like forever. But cracks spiderwebbed in the months that followed. Jordan's freelance gigs dried up, the art world a fickle beast, and Harlan Tech's pressure cooker left Alex hollow-eyed and short-tempered. "You're married to the code," Jordan would say, half joking, but the hurt lingered. Then the board's whispers turned to meetings, Jordan consulting on rebranding, innocent at first, then late nights with Ed, just strategy sessions. Alex trusted him, or tried to, until the engagement party's fallout. A donor's drunken rant about family values, Jordan's hand lingering too long on Ed's arm as he smoothed things over. Now, in the cabin's hush, Alex replayed it all, the fire crackling low as he nursed a whiskey neat. Betrayal wasn't a thunderclap. It was erosion, slow and insidious, wearing down the cliffs until one wave took it all. By dawn, resolve hardened like dew on ferns. He drove back at midday, the sun a rare jewel piercing the clouds, pulling into HQ as staffers erupted in hugs and high-fives. "You're trending, boss," Harlan stands. Mia's briefing was a war room. Lawsuits filed, press releases drafted, the board's assets frozen pending investigation. "Jordan's been calling non-stop," she added, hesitant. "Says he needs to explain. Let him stew." Alex's voice was even, but his chest ached like a bruise. He dove into damage control, town halls with the team, where tears flowed freer than the Duwamish, stories of Echolink's quiet miracles spilling out. A transcoder from Spokane who'd found her voice. A rural teen whose first, "I love you," crossed state lines. It reminded him why he'd started this. Not for stock tickers, but for the boy he'd been, scribbling love letters in a locker he prayed no one would crack. That evening, as the city lights flickered on like hesitant stars, Jordan appeared at the loft door, soaked from the drizzle, eyes red-rimmed. "Alex, please. 5 minutes." The threshold felt like a chasm. Alex stepped aside, the silence thick as fog off the bay. Jordan paced the living room, words tumbling. "Ed cornered me months ago. Said if I didn't feed him intel, your schedules, the donor lists, he'd tank my career. Blackball me from every gallery in the Northwest. I thought I could play along, protect us, but it spiraled. The emails. I never meant. Betrayal's not an accident," Alex interrupted, leaning against the kitchen island, arms crossed. "You chose silence over me." Jordan stopped, tears carving tracks down his cheeks. "I chose survival. For us." He knew about the ring, used it. Said you'd be ruined if the board went nuclear. That our wedding would be a scandal splashed across the Post-Intelligencer. The words hung poisonous. Alex's laugh was hollow. "Our wedding. You talk like it's still real." "It is." Jordan lunged forward, grasping his hands. "I love you, Alex. Every stubborn, brilliant inch. I fucked up, but I never stopped." Alex pulled away, the touch burning. "Love isn't intel drops to vipers. It's the hard stand, the voice in the room." He turned to the window, the space needles glow mocking their fracture. "I need space, Jordan. Real space." Jordan nodded, broken, slipping out into the night. Alone, Alex sank to the floor, sobs racking him like the storm's return. Vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was the price of depth, the humanistic core that made empires or broke them. And in that raw unraveling, he glimpsed the path forward. Not vengeance, but reclamation. Weeks blurred into a frenzy of reconstruction, Harlan Tech rising phoenix-like from the board's ashes. Alex's days were a gauntlet. Depositions in sleek law offices overlooking the courthouse, where Ed's bluster crumbled under cross-examination. Media gauntlets at the EMP Museum, spinning scandal into saga, and late nights in the war room, whiteboards scrawled with visions for Echolink 2.0, a VR space for virtual pride parades, safe havens in code. The staff rallied, potlucks in the cafeteria turning into strategy sessions, laughter punctuating the grind like punctuation in poetry. But nights were Jordan's haunt, memories ambushing in the loft's quiet corners. The divot in the couch from his reading nook, the half-empty spice rack from his experimental curries. Alex dated the silence with runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail, pounding pavement until his lungs burned, the canal's reflections mocking his solitude. Friends urged therapy, the queer collective at the Capitol Hill Clinic offering group circles where stories echoed his own. Loves lost to ambition's maw, identities bartered for boardroom nods. One crisp October afternoon, as Maple Leaves carpeted Gasworks Park, Alex met with the investigator. A no-nonsense Fed named Torres, with a buzzcut and a rainbow pin on his lapel. They sat on a bench by the rusting gasification towers, the lake's breeze carrying hints of chimney smoke. "We got M," Torres said, sliding over a thumb drive. "Wire transfers, deleted emails recovered. Ed's been skimming for years, funneling to anti-LGBT PACs. Ironic. Huh? Hates what he can't control." Alex's stomach twisted. "And Jordan." Torres's eyes softened. "Cooperating fully. Testified this morning, detailed the coercion, the threats. He's wrecked. Man. Kept saying it's all for you." The drive burned in Alex's pocket as he wandered the park, the sundial's shadow creeping like time's indictment. Wrecked. The word evoked Jordan's sketchpad, abandoned on their bed that last night, pages filled with portraits. Alex laughing at a Mariners game, fierce in a boardroom brawl, tender in sleep. Art as apology, strokes of charcoal pleading what words couldn't. That evening, Impulse pulled him to Jordan's studio in Ballard, a converted warehouse loft where the air hummed with turpentine and regret. The door was ajar, light spilling like an invitation. Inside, canvases loomed like ghosts. Abstracts of fractured light, Seattle's grid in riotous color, and there, tucked in the corner, a massive triptych of them. Left panel. Their first kiss, rain-smeared and urgent. Center, the proposal, fireworks exploding in oils. Right. The boardroom, Jordan's face a mask of torment. Alex's back turned, a chasm of shadow between. Jordan emerged from the kitchen, paint-splattered tea clinging to his frame, eyes widening. Alex, I didn't. Lock the door, Alex said, voice rough as the sounds chop. Not anger, exhaustion, the kind that craved truth like oxygen. They sat on the worn leather sectional, the triptych looming, a silent jury. Jordan poured herbal tea, hands trembling. I thought painting it out would help, like exorcism. It's beautiful, Alex admitted, the words costing him. Hurts like hell, but beautiful. The confession cracked the dam. Jordan spoke in torrents. The first meeting with Ed, the veiled threats. Your fiancé's a liability. One leak about his lifestyle, and poof, investors flee. The late nights, fabricating distance to shield Alex, the nausea of each email sent. I told myself it was temporary, a bridge. But bridges burn, don't they? Alex listened, the thumb drive heavy in his pocket. You could have come to me. We could have fought together. Would you have let me? Jordan's laugh was watery. You're the knight, Alex. Always charging the dragon. I didn't want to be the squire who trips you. Pride, that American sin, rugged individualism masking the fear of shared falls. Alex pulled out the drive, sliding it across the coffee table. Torres says you're clear. Hero even. Jordan recoiled. No. I'm the fool who almost lost everything for scraps of security. The air thickened, charged like pre-storm static. Alex stood, pacing to the window where the ship canal chugged indifferent below. I fired them all that day in the rain because it was clean power as justice. But you're the mess I can't code away. Jordan rose, closing the distance, not touching, just near enough for warmth to bridge the gap. Then don't. Let it be messy. Let us be. Their eyes locked, mirrors of hurt and hunger. Alex's hand found Jordan's jaw, thumb tracing the stubble he'd once shaved with teasing precision. The kiss was tentative, a question in salt and tea, then deepening a reclamation, lips parting like dawn over the Cascades. They sank to the floor amid scattered brushes, bodies aligning in familiar geography. But this was no conquest. It was communion, hands mapping apologies over collarbones, breaths mingling in whispered I'm sorry's that tasted like homecoming. After, tangled in drop cloths, the world intruded softly. Mia's text about a breakthrough investor call. Alex groaned, reality's hook pulling him up. We have work. Jordan propped on an elbow, smile tentative. We? Yeah. But terms, full transparency. No more solo crusades. Deal. Jordan's grin widened, boyish. And the wedding? Still on. Alex paused, heart swelling like the tide. Bigger. With drag queens officiating and a cake that says, fuck the board. Laughter echoed, healing the fractures. Outside, stars pricked the velvet sky, indifferent witnesses to mending. Yet climax loomed, not in romance's bloom, but the courtroom's glare. The trial hit headlines nationwide, tech titan versus bigots. The Harlan Showdown, turning Alex into a reluctant folk hero, op-eds in The Stranger hailing him as the queer cowboy of the Northwest. Ed's defense was a circus. Character witnesses from country clubs, tearful monologues about traditional values. Sylvia played the victim card. Marcus folded early for immunity. Lila? She cracked on the stand, sobbing about pressure from above. Jordan testified last, voice steady as he detailed the web, his sketches projected as evidence. Ed's snarling portrait a damning caricature. The jury, a cross-section of Seattle's mosaic, baristas, engineers, a burly longshoreman with a bi-flag pin, deliberated 2 days. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Embezzlement, 10 years. Harassment, fines that stung like salt in wounds. As cuffs clicked on Ed's wrists, his glare bored into Alex. You'll regret this, Harlan. Queers like you never last. Alex met it unflinching. Watch me. The gavel fell, and the courtroom erupted. Hugs from Torres, cheers from advocates who'd packed the gallery. Outside, paparazzi flashed like erratic lightning, but Alex and Jordan slipped away, hands linked, into a waiting car bound for the cabin. No speeches, just the road unspooling, evergreens whispering absolution. Winter clamped down on the Olympics like a stern ant, snow blanketing the cabin in hush, the quinault's flow muffled to a silver thread. Alex and Jordan holed up for a fortnight, the trial's echo fading into wood smoke and wassail. They rebuilt in layers, mornings chopping kindling, axes swinging in sync like a duet. Afternoons sketching code on napkins, Jordan's flair softening Alex's edges. Evenings by the hearth, Baldwin's essays read aloud, words weaving their wounds into wisdom. Listen, Jordan murmured one night, firelight gilding his profile. Love is a battle, he says, but the real fight is loving yourself through it. Alex pulled him closer, the quote landing like embers on his soul. Self-love, that elusive American grail, preached in self-help aisles but practiced in shadows. For Alex, it meant forgiving not just Jordan, but the boy who'd hidden crushes in composition books, the CEO who'd armored his heart in algorithms. Back in Seattle, Harlan tech bloomed. Echolink 2.0 launched to fanfare. A virtual gala streamed from the Paramount, drag icons hosting, donors pouring in from coasts queer and straight. Alex keynote, Jordan at his side in a velvet blazer, their hands brushing the podium like a vow renewed. This isn't just tech, Alex told the virtual throng, pixels pulsing with faces from Boise to Brooklyn. It's bridges, over chasms of doubt, across rivers of fear. And tonight we dance on them. The wedding followed in spring, cherry blossoms rioting along Lake Washington. No stuffy venue, a floating barge on the lake, ringed by kayaks strung with fairy lights, officiated by a septuagenarian queen named Ruby Roulette, her sequins outshining the sunset. Vows were raw, Alex promising to code our forever, bugs and all. Jordan vowing to paint your shadows gold. Guests, devs in kilts, activists with signs, even Torres toasting with rye, cheered as they kissed, the barge rocking gently, a metaphor for love's sway. But humanism's arc bends toward complexity, not saccharine bows. Months in, whispers resurfaced. A rival startup poaching talent, investors balking at the drama. Alex woke one dawn to Jordan's side empty again. A canvas half-finished on the easel. Storm clouds over a fractured skyline. Just inspiration, Jordan said, but his eyes darted, old ghosts stirring. It crested at a gala in San Francisco, the mint's gilded halls buzzing with venture vipers. A donor, silver-haired, sharp as a stiletto, cornered Jordan by the champagne flutes. Darling, your husband's bold, but boldness bankrupts. Ever think of consulting elsewhere? Real money, no scandals. Alex overheard from across the room, the words a venom drip. Jordan's laugh was polite, deflecting, but the seed took root. Back home, arguments simmered like Seattle's perpetual brew. It's harmless networking, Jordan insisted, but Alex saw the fracture. Ambitions pull, the artist's itch for unscarred canvas. We're past that, Alex pleaded. No more solos. The betrayal echoed, not in boardrooms but bedrooms. Jordan's late sketches, phone screens angled away. One night, post-argument, Alex found the email chain. Feelers from a SoCal firm, promises of galleries sans Harlan shadow. Not Ed's malice, but temptation's whisper. Fame without the fight. Climax cracked open in their loft, rain lashing windows like recriminations. I need to breathe, Jordan confessed, bag half-packed. Not leave, just space to create without your empire's weight. Alex's world tilted. Space? That's what broke us before. It's growth, Jordan countered. eyes pleading. We can't be each other's cage. The door closed softly, but the slam reverberated. Alone, Alex wandered the waterfront, ferries ghosting the black water, his reflection warped in puddles. Betrayal's second act wasn't rage. It was grief, profound and purifying. He called Mia at dawn. Take the reins. I'm out for a bit. The road trip was impulse, a battered Jeep tracing Route 101 south. Big Sur's cliffs, Joshua Tree's spines. A pilgrimage through America's queer underbelly. Stops at diners where waiters with faded flags poured coffee without judgment. Hostels in Taos where elders shared medicine stories under star-pricked skies. In a Santa Fe adobe, an artist collective invited him to jam. Paints and code colliding in a mural of intertwined circuits and hearts. Jordan's texts trickled. Miss you. Creating. Love. No please, just presence. Alex replied in fragments. Photos of redwoods. Haikus of hurt. Distance distilled truth. Love wasn't possession, but parallel paths converging in choice. He returned in summer's blaze, finding Jordan at the studio. A new series unveiled. Portraits of queer icons. Alex among them, eyes fierce with unarmored grace. I sold out, Jordan said, grinning sheepishly. To a museum in Portland. No firms, no shadows. Just us. The reconciliation was quiet. A picnic on Cary Park, skyline sprawling below, hands laced as the sun dipped. I get it now, Alex said. Humanity's in the mess. The rain, the runaways, the returns. Jordan leaned in, breath warm. And romance? In the rainbows after. They rebuilt stronger. Joint ventures. Echolink's Queer Creator Fund seeded by Jordan's sales. No fairy tale finale, but a tapestry. Threads of conflict woven into resilience. Betrayal's sting softened to scar. A reminder that in America's vast, varied heart, love endures not despite the storms, but through them. Years on, at a Pride march down Broadway, Alex and Jordan walked hand in hand, confetti swirling like digital confetti from Echolink's feed. A kid, 14, flag-draped, approached, eyes wide. You saved me, he said, voice cracking. Alex knelt, Jordan's hand on his shoulder. Nah, kid, you saved yourself. We're just the bridge. As drums thrummed and the crowd surged, Alex glanced at his husband, the man who'd weathered his rains. In that electric now, humanism bloomed. Not perfection, but persistence. The profound, pedestrian miracle of two souls choosing, daily, to stand in the downpour together.